The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
Good morning. I'm CJ.
It's Friday.
I had to throw in a different announcement there.
We don't want to throw everybody off track. We're completely, but it is Friday in the Riv, and we have some things to talk about, as always, in the Riv.
No, there's never anything to talk about in the
I
Riv.
guess we'll talk about the City Council challenge. Fall River City Council candidate Colin Dias challenged the signatures of fellow candidate.
He's challenging Michelle Dionne's signatures.
Yes. And, you know, and you should read the article. Joe Good's writing about it. He's saying that some of them are not legible and they were signed by the same person, and
It's very interesting because he's the first, I think he's the first candidate in a long time to challenge the signatures, except for Jazel, who during the recall was challenging everybody's signatures. But because they didn't have a quorum, it never went anywhere.
well, isn't that ironic that you brought that up? Because I was going to bring something to that effect up about the double standard. This is, first of all, election chairwoman Kelly Souza Young said that the burden of proof is on the objector, who is Colin Dias,
Right.
obviously, to prove. And Michelle Dionne is about being concerned. She said, "I am not. No, I'm not. I ran 2 years ago. Those signatures, I got those signatures in the very same way," which is not really a smart thing to say, because if they find out these signatures aren't proper, that means their original election, which she ran the first time. So obviously she rests on it. I'm going to people I know and knocking on doors. I got 232 signatures and 210 were certified. Then it said, what is concerning to Dionne, she said, is that Dias is questioning the professionalism of the Board of Election staff who approves the signatures of registered voters who signed her nomination. And this is a quote from, "This is not their first rodeo," unquote, said Dionne. They know, quote, "They know what they are doing," unquote. Well, I wish that were true, Michelle, because this is a part of the due process and rights you have in politics. Because as it said in this article, as you just said, CJ, when it did the mayor of the city good, he challenged his own board.
Right.
And the validity of the signatures they certified.
Correct.
And when we ran our recall, the sitting mayor of the city, Marijuana Will, challenged our signatures in front of the Board of Elections,
Right.
and in court.
Right.
We had to have a cadre of people sitting in someone's kitchen going over every signature, cross-referencing the address to see if it was correct. We had them all categorized by legibility, et cetera, and of course we prevailed. But you know, it concerns me when a council candidate makes statements like, "I have to get full information," when she didn't avail herself of the information she had in front of her at the outset of the process when we were talking about the peer. Now she's talking about, she's concerned about questioning the professionalism. No, she's not. No, he's not. Oh, do we have a dual standard? Can sitting mayors and politicians challenge the board? I think it's more acceptable for a citizen, a candidate, to challenge than a sitting mayor, because the Board of Elections works for him. Yet the last two mayors, when they thought they were in trouble and had people running against them, challenged it. It's a right. don't complain. If you got the signatures properly, fine. If you're trying to scam, well, and you get caught, maybe they can catch something. I'm not questioning. The Board of Elections does a good job. The signatures we had, there were some signatures we felt were discounted that shouldn't have been, and there were others that the city thought, but they try. They make a diligent effort to give the candidates every break they can. If the thing is, that's why they have you print and then sign. People should print and sign so you can. They look at the address. They cross-reference it with what the voter registration roll says. See if the name coincides, looks like the name that's on the voter rolls. Look, it's a very difficult job for them, and it's a very, very tedious process. And they do their job. But like anybody else, you have the right to. He has the right to challenge. The mayor had the right to challenge, and so did Mayor Flanagan, previous Mayor Flanagan. This is what disturbs me about this whole scenario about politicians and how they think everything is on a sliding scale, which will segue me into something.
Well, before you
Go
go on to something else,
Yeah.
One of the things that the elections office does, they don't compare the signatures anymore, because in some cases they can't. You don't sign in a book anymore. You
Yeah.
fill out a card.
Yeah.
And then that gets sent to the Secretary of State, who puts it into the computer, and that's it. So all they're verifying is the name and the address.
Yeah.
That's all they're verifying. They're not verifying the signatures anymore. So anyone can sign those. Anyone.
And is that good? Is that good? No. But the fact is, you've got to understand the process. And even when you did sign a book, it didn't matter. I had a friend of mine who had the incorrect birthday. And when he went to the registry of motor vehicles, he had a problem. And they said, "This isn't your birthday." And he said, "Yeah, I know when I was born." And it was like, well, the city hall says this isn't your birthday. And he went down to the city hall, and lo and behold, they took out a book, and they had the wrong birthday. And
Only in Fall River.
And then he looked and he said, how could this happen? I got birth certificate. Well, apparently, when they transitioned from, I don't know whether the books were in the basement or something, and some of them were and they recopied them, somebody put the wrong number. And because the original number, it was an older birthday. It wasn't quite absolutely clear. So he put the wrong number down. So then, of course, he had original birth certificates and stuff and that was the problem. It didn't coincide with what city. So, nobody is error-free.
No.
Even if you put it in the book, it doesn't necessarily mean it's 100. There is a case of proof that it's not ever 100% accurate.
Right.
And so, I mean, this is what disturbs me. And as I said, it segues me into one little short blip, because I had a conversation with somebody yesterday that, again, makes me crazy all the time. We talk about politics, but we talk about this on the show all the time, CJ. I had a guy, and I'm not going to mention the candidates, because then we'll be accused of politicizing or promoting somebody's candidacy. But it was for the office of mayor. So somebody said, and it applies to every office. He said, obviously he had his candidate. The other individual apparently supported another candidate. So he said the conversation went like this. He said, "Do you believe that guy told me that he's not voting for my guy because he doesn't like him?" And I said, "Well, unfortunately, I do believe that. because that's unfortunately what we have in political elections. They vote for chow mein sandwiches. They vote for Coney Island hot dogs. They vote because somebody knows the guy. They vote because he bought them a beer once. And they can't put aside the fact that like has got nothing to do with this. You're hiring this individual to run the city and participate in our government in your best interest. You should hire someone based on their ability to do that job. Every other job, you have to have qualifications. If you please get on Spindle City Straight Talk, send us an email. We want to know how many people out there will knowingly go to the worst mechanic on the planet because he's a nice guy. I want to know if you will trust your car, your air conditioning unit, or anything that you depend on to someone you know is an incompetent and is not going to do the job properly. If you are one of those people, I want to see just how many we have. Because I have said this numerous times, I don't give a fiddler's you know what. If my mechanic, if I like him or not, he's my mechanic. I take my car to him because he can fix my car. I take my lawnmower to somebody who can fix my lawnmower. And it's amazing. These people have your pocketbook in their hand. And then you're going to, on the next breath, you're going to complain about tax increase after tax increase after tax increase in the face of these exorbitant pay raises for their friends, political deals, all the other things that come out about these politicians, and then you vote for them because, well, I know them, I like them, or I don't like the other guy, even though the other guy would probably do a really great job. So if you're one of those guys that somebody says, this guy's the best mechanic I ever saw, he used to work at Talladega or something with NASCAR. That guy can fix an engine blindfolded. And he's cheap. And you say, no, I'm going to go to the other guy because I don't like this guy, the way this guy parts his hair. I'm going to go to the guy that charges me exorbitant prices and never fixes my car. Takes him 3 or 4 shots to get the thing even running. That's what I'm going to do. So if that's the way this is the reason that we have the government on all levels that we have. So I had to get that out because when I hear stuff like that, it just drives me nuts. It's like, it's not about like, these people are being hired to do a job, not to be your buddy. You're not asking them to go out drinking with you. You're hiring them to run the city in your best interest. So go ahead, CJ. You can comment on this one, I'm sure.
Well,
you know,
we look at candidates that are running for office, and and we've said it how many times on the show. Well, he gave me a chow mein sandwich. He fixed a pothole in front of my house. That's not why you vote for someone. You don't vote for somebody because they're Portuguese or Spanish or French or Cambodian or any of that. You don't vote for them because they're a woman. You don't vote for them because they're a man. You don't vote for them because they're Afro-American or anything else. You vote for them based upon what they stand for and what they're going to give the city. Not what they're going to give themselves and not what they're going to give you. If you're voting because of what you're getting, you're being selfish. If you're voting because of what the city's getting, then you're being, very competent in your voting process. Otherwise, you're an incompetent. You shouldn't even be voting. I really think we need to give an IQ test sometimes for people to vote because it's amazing. And then you also have people who vote for people because they are so-and-so likes the mayor and works well with the mayor. So-and-so doesn't work well with the mayor. Even the article about the challenges, it says in here, Dionne is a known supporter of Correa, while Dias is known to oppose the mayor and participated in the recall election. Why does anyone need to know that? Those are things people already know, but why do we have to put that out there? I mean, granted, it's information that people may want to make their decision on, but is that a good way to make a decision?
Well, obviously it isn't, because look at the government we've got, and
Exactly.
a point you just made, which I think is an extremely important aspect and a perspective that most people, who are these clueless people who vote for people for any other reason, the point you made about, I'm going to vote for him because he works well with the mayor. Listen, dummies. The city council is not supposed to work with the mayor. They're an independent arm. Government, that's the reason on the federal level, we have a tripartite system. They're supposed to be independent and create a series of checks and balances. The legislative, the executive, and the judicial are not supposed to be walking in lockstep. The last time every aspect of government walked in lockstep, as I always say, they were doing the goose step. And they were doing it in Nazi Germany. You're not supposed to elect a city council that's going to rubber stamp everything the mayor does. It's bad enough that we got people who are actually opponents of the mayor that rubber stamp stuff like $40,000 pay raises when people in this city have the lowest per capita income in the state. They approve every budget with fees and taxes in it. So it's bad enough when you got people who don't walk in lockstep, because imagine the abuses if it was a rubber stamp.
Well, the problem we have with the city council, with this current city council, and many city councils previously, is that when budget time comes around, they don't exercise their authority to cut budget items.
No.
And God forbid anyone touch the public safety department, police, fire, EMS. And believe me, EMS is supposed to cover its own bills, so it doesn't matter. But we are supposed to have somebody who's supposed to look out for us. And when you have departments that are running with $2 and $3 and $4 million in overtime, you got a problem. You have a problem. And for the police department to end their year $500,000 in the red on overtime, what's the problem? Why do we have this issue?
Well, it's a difficult issue because now everybody demands more police presence and they don't have the manpower.
Right.
And they don't want to hire the manpower because if they increase it and we actually get too many police, although people say you can never get too many police or too many. But the problem is, if you read most of the books, especially the NFPA, about staffing levels, in fire departments, they said, you know, they have a standard for staffing, and based on, you know, a whole litany of things like how many high hazard areas versus you know residential communities. But you can go to the NFPA and it has a section on adequate staffing, but that's the key. It's got to be adequate, and what it has to be adequate for is the normalcy. You can't staff every police and fire department based on the most severe incidents. Because if we staffed Fall River based on mill fires, even though we've had a disproportionate amount of mill fires over virtually, I think, any community on the planet Earth, because we had well over 100 working textile mills at one time, and I fought quite a few of them. The fact is, we'd need a 1,000-man fire department, because if you want the amount of manpower to fight the worst case scenario, the exception rather than the rule, you have to find a balance. That's why with police officers, I mean, and that's why, and nobody respects the job that they do more than I do. But the people who don't understand that fact will say that what they want to demand is basically a police officer on every corner.
Yeah, but that's unrealistic.
And it's, yeah, absolutely.
We know that.
And this is the reason that we get overtime, because this is kind of a byproduct of the responses to issues. Crime goes up. Oh, we want. So what does the police department do? And I'm not blaming the police department. They're responding to what probably the mayor's telling them to do. Do something. So what is the chief going to do? He's got a finite number of men, and he has to put more people on the street because everybody's up in arms. I want to see more cops out there. So what does he do? Overtime.
Yeah,
and then
but-
they run out of overtime. Look, I'm not saying it's right, CJ.
know.
That's the fact. What they have to do is come up with other things and programs to try to curb crime. You know, years ago, and in many cities they still do, citizens' involvement, you know, get the community more involved to report crimes, to look at crimes, neighborhood watch programs, which are an old thing. We had them here in Florida at one time, but we've got to re-engage the population. The problem is probably about 50% of the population we got now are criminals.
Criminals. That's
So
the problem.
that may be the problem. But, I mean, we're laughing to stop from crying, but that's a reality of the situation. And as you said, it is problematic because we're paying. But then again, we might have more money to afford this if we didn't give everybody else connected with non-public safeties $40,000, $20,000,
Right.
$10,000 stipends for showing up with your mucklucks when it snows and you're the chief of staff. You know, these kind of things. But again, we get back to the core issue, which is vote people in based on what they're going to do. If you got a city council candidate saying, I'm not going to support this kind of, we're spending way too much money and a lack of priorities. Way too much money. The pay raises are far too big. We got to hold the line and use old terms, archaic terms in today's society, like bare bones budget, working within your budget, prioritizing. So, I mean, these things, and that's the thing. Every time we talk about an election, we go bananas over this stuff because it drives you crazy. Because they're going to, you know, we will make a bold prediction that they're going to probably elect basically the same council.
Oh, yeah.
And if the council is going to change, it's not going to change much. You're going to, you know, I would, you know, I'm a bet man. I'll bet anybody that Linda Pereira gets in. Not that she shouldn't get in, but the reality is she will get in. So it's going to be a council that's been there. And the only thing that changes is their face didn't appear for a few years.
Right.
But it's going to be the same old. Yeah, the same old. And then, of course, the other seat, which was vacant even when it was filled. It's going to be filled by, we know, probably somebody that, you know, chances are, I would say, it will probably be Michelle Dionne. She's got a lot of support from the Jazel voters, and you know they will come out. And yeah. But the other one I would say would be a viable candidate because of name recognition. And this is my own personal opinion. And the political pundits and election watchers can disagree. But I would say probably the other person with the next best chance, based on the name recognition, unless somebody breaks out of the pack, would be Trot Lee. Because he has name recognition. This is his third bite of the apple. He does have some visibility in the community. And, but as I said, we have a whole bunch of new people. I don't see much from these new people. We're trying to get them on the show to tell us why they should be there. Because I really want a reason to vote for somebody.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I want somebody to give me a reason to vote for them. I want to see some new guy come up here or some any new candidate and tell me that, look, I'm a fiscal conservative. I'm not going to let them spend money. You know, I'm going to worry about the taxpayer. I'm going to worry about the pocketbook. You know, we will spend money where it's appropriate, but I'm not going to let the mayor indiscriminately give everybody a stipend and a pay raise. And
see, my problem with that is, you know, and we hear it all the time, the budget is a living, breathing,
yeah.
You know, that's bull.
Yeah.
That's absolute bull. You go to other cities, you know, in the community, the budget is the budget. That's it. That's your money. You don't need it, too bad. If you need more, unless it's an emergency, you're not getting it. And that's the way it should be. This is your budget. This is what you have to work with. And if you need more, too bad. Unless it's an emergency. Look at Newton.
Yeah.
Look at Newton. They publish a budget. I mean, there's no question. You know where every dime is going.
Yeah.
And you know what they were supposed to do last year and what they're going to do this year.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that's a budget. What Fall River has is a joke. It's a joke. It's a bunch of numbers added to a piece of paper, and they say it's zero-based budgeting. Give me a break.
Yeah, well, you're right, and we know that in these other communities, if like in Newton, they have their planned expenditures for this year, what their projects are. They also have a synopsis of what they did last year, and anything that they had on last year's list that wasn't completed, there is a reason why it wasn't completed. They explained to the taxpayer and to the city council why it wasn't accomplished. And as you said, you're a department head, you put in a budget. If you have, you don't see them coming back in front of the council asking for more money unless it isn't an emergency, because you know something, unlike Fall River where they go, oh yeah, well, okay, we gotta give them the money, yeah, you know, it's this, it's that, it's for this. Well, in these other communities, they go, their head will be on a chopping block.
That's it.
Their head, because they will say, this is part of your job. You are a department head to create a budget that the city can effectively project what we need and how we spend our money for the next fiscal year. And you didn't do it. I want you to explain to me why you need money for normal business expenditures, and you didn't have it in the budget. You can't have somebody going up and saying, I need basic fundamental tools, but I didn't put it in my budget. I put in a budget, and now I'm going to come back and get all the other stuff that I didn't put in the budget. Well,
And that's what they do in Fall River.
all the time.
When you look at a new fiscal year starts on July 1st, and on July 5th, they're coming in saying, I need more money, you've got a problem.
Yeah.
It's the beginning of the fiscal year. How can you already need more money? Because you didn't budget properly. That's why I say our budget is a lie. It's a lie to the taxpayer. And that is on the mayor's back. That's on the city council's back.
And
they lie constantly.
And they let them.
And they let them.
And they don't, as you
And
said.
they approve it. And then the city council approves it.
That's right. And shame on them. As you said, how many times has Terry Sullivan come in after his budget has been approved and say, well, I need this fee increase to do this, and I need this increase to do that? Well, that didn't happen in the last 5 days or the last 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Since the budget was approved. He knew he had to do this, and he didn't put it in his budget.
Right.
He put his budget in to make sure everybody got their paychecks and they'd appropriate the money, and now he needs a bigger appropriation to do what he's supposed to be doing. The business of the water department.
And they put budgets in.
And nobody virtually questions on it. Oh, well, the water mains are old. Well, they weren't old 2 weeks ago when he approved the budget. They weren't old 6 months ago when you began to put this budget together. You didn't know that this project was on the horizon. This wasn't like, the entire 24-inch main on Main Street blew up.
Which is an emergency, and we can understand them needing money for that. But my problem is this. I believe that the department heads put a budget together to make the mayor look good. They keep it as low as they possibly can. And obviously, there's no such thing as zero-based budgeting because you have already overhead with salaries and contracts. So right off the bat, those are going in. And then, of course, departments like DCM has X number of dollars for this, that, and the other thing that they have to put in there. So that's what they put in, but that's all they put in. And then they come back later and say, well, we need more money for this. We need money for roofs. We need money for streets. We need money for paving. We need money for streetscapes. We need money for this. We need money for that. And the city council just goes, okay. What happened to the budgeting?
Because the budgeting isn't a real budget. Look, I understand it's difficult on a city because you have to project, but those projections have to be based on realistic assessments in the budget. So stay angry, everybody. Have a good weekend. It's supposed to be gorgeous. Low temperatures and low humidity, so enjoy
And
it.
I'm stuck in the house.
No, I want everybody call CJ up, tell him to go riding around on his scooter so you can say hello to him.
Hey, have a great weekend, everybody. And remember, stay angry.